That's why you don't fucking buy Ford, people.
People are always like, what's the best new car? Honestly, in my opinion, none of them. I would much rather have an older car. They were built better. New cars, we see nothing but problems.
This truck is dog shit.
This message is for General Motors.
Fuck you.
Now, a small engine is fine for a Tacoma if you're not hauling or towing a lot of stuff, but the Tundra, that was their big boy.
Consumer Reports just handed a brand new truck a score of 5 out of 100, not 50. 5. It is the worst pickup they have ever tested, and thousands of Americans are making $60,000 payments on it right now. And it is not alone. When Consumer Reports tested every full-size truck in America, not a single one passed. The best truck in the whole country scraped a 40. But how did it come to this? How did the most trusted names in the American truck world go from building machines that ran for 300,000 miles to shipping the worst-scoring pickups Consumer Reports has ever seen? Make sure you subscribe. Because I started this channel for one reason, to share what dealerships and car makers don't want you to hear. With your support, I can keep making these videos. Now let's get into it. The answer starts with a truth the entire industry would love to keep quiet. That failing grade is not one bad model, or one unlucky brand having an off year. It is every full-size truck in America at once. The Ford F-150, the Chevy Silverado, the Ram, the Toyota Tundra, every last one of them landed below what anybody would honestly call good. And they are getting worse, not better, even as the window stickers sail right past $60,000 and $70,000. Stop and picture that for a second. These are not oddball imports nobody has heard of. These are the best-selling vehicles in the entire country. The F-150 by itself has been the #1 selling vehicle in America for almost 50 years straight. These are the trucks working people depend on to feed their families, to haul their tools, to run their entire businesses. And the most trusted testing outfit in the country just went down the list and stamped the same warning on nearly every one of them. It is like walking into the honor roll assembly and finding out every single top student flunked the same exam on the same day. This is not bad luck. This is a pattern, and the deeper you dig into it, the more it looks less like a mistake and more like these trucks got rushed out the door unfinished, with you left holding the bill as the crash test dummy. That is the quiet scandal buried in these scores, and it runs through every single truck we are about to cover. So how did the trucks Americans trust the most end up scoring the worst? To see how deep the rot really goes, we start at the very top, with the truck that is somehow both the bestseller in America and a walking recall notice. That truck is the Ford F-150, the king itself. It scored the highest of any full-size pickup, and that is exactly the problem, because the highest score in the entire class was still only a 40 out of 100. This is the truck America has bought more than any other for nearly half a century, and it could not even claw its way up to average. And the reliability score is only half the story. Ford recently issued one of the largest recalls in the company's history, more than 4 million trucks, over a trailer wiring fault that can knock out your brake lights and turn signals while you are towing. A landscaper in the Fort Wayne, Indiana area bought a new F-150 to tow his equipment trailer to jobs every single day. Then the recall notice landed in his mailbox telling him the truck he had just financed could go dark on the cars behind him the moment he hooked up a load. So he parked it. He could not run his business and his personal liability on a truck recalled for the exact thing he needed it to do. He went back to the Ford dealer in the area, asking for a way out, and got the same runaround everyone gets, thousands of dollars in lost value just to walk away from it. When the single best-selling, best-scoring truck in the country is this compromised, that is not the bright spot on this list. That is the ceiling, and everything falls from here. Which brings us to the truck that stings the most, the Toyota Tundra. For decades, buying a Toyota truck was the definition of buy it once and forget about it. That reputation is the entire reason people still gladly pay a premium for one over the competition. But Consumer Reports rated the newest Tundra as the least reliable full-size truck on the entire board, with an ugly score of 32. And the reason behind it is not some minor annoyance. Toyota discovered that the Tundra's newest twin-turbo 6-cylinder engine could have metal machining debris left inside it from the factory, the kind of thing that can choke off the flow of oil and blow the engine completely apart. Toyota then moved to replace the engines in more than 100,000 trucks. Sit with that number for a moment. Brand new engines in brand new trucks being pulled out and swapped because they were built wrong on the assembly line. And owners are so unconvinced the fix goes far enough that there is now a class action lawsuit over it. A contractor near Knoxville, Tennessee bought himself a new Tundra to run his business precisely because a Toyota was supposed to be the one thing on the job site he never had to think about. Instead, he spent weeks without his truck, sitting on a waiting list for an engine replacement, turning down jobs he physically could not get to because his brand new pickup was in pieces at the dealer. That is real money out of a working man's pocket over a truck that was supposed to be the safe choice. When the most trusted name in the business is yanking engines out of 100,000 pickups, that badge on the hood does not mean what it used to. And believe me, the Tundra is only the opening act. Next up are the twins from General Motors, the Chevy Silverado and its near-identical cousin, the GMC Sierra. Consumer Reports flagged both of them, and the heavy-duty GMC Sierra 2500 HD landed as one of the least reliable heavy-duty trucks money can buy. The complaints stack up in two big areas. The first is the technology. Owners report the backup cameras cutting out, the giant infotainment screens freezing and glitching and rebooting on their own, all the expensive electronics that quietly turn a work truck into a rolling customer service call. And these are not cheap fixes once the warranty runs out. A single one of those big screens can cost more to replace than a decent used car, and the labor alone for chasing down an electrical gremlin can bury you before they even find it. You did not spend 80 grand on a truck to fund the dealer's service department. The second problem is a lot more alarming. There is a recall over tailgates that can drop open entirely on their own. Picture that for a second. You load up the bed with tools or lumber, you get up to speed on the highway, and the tailgate just falls open by itself, dumping whatever you were hauling out onto the road behind you, straight into the path of the car following you. A well driller down in the Lubbock, Texas area bought a Sierra Heavy Duty to handle genuinely hard work, and instead found himself fighting frozen screens and babying a tailgate he could no longer trust to stay shut. He told the GMC dealer in the area he just wanted a truck that worked like his old one did, and they did not really have an answer for him. When you are laying out $70,000 or $80,000 on a heavy-duty truck to earn a living, and it is nickel and diming you with electronic gremlins and a tailgate with a mind of its own, that is not remotely the deal you thought you were signing up for. But at least those trucks run on engines that have been around the block. The next one does not even have that in its corner. Then there is the electric one, the Rivian R1T. On paper, it is one of the most advanced pickups ever built, a genuine engineering showpiece. Out in the real world, Consumer Reports rated it as one of the worst performing electric trucks for reliability, and it has been stuck below average since the very first one rolled off the line. And the trouble is concentrated in exactly the places you least want it, in the build quality and the electrical systems, which on an electric truck is basically the entire vehicle. On top of that, Rivian has already had to recall trucks over things like headlights that could fail to switch on in cold weather and seatbelts that may not have been bolted in correctly. A software engineer in the Portland, Oregon area bought one because he genuinely believed in the future of it and paid a hefty premium to be one of the first. What he actually got was a truck that spent far too much of its life waiting on parts and appointments, from a company still, frankly, learning how to build a vehicle. And to make it worse, the earliest of these trucks have already lost around half their value, so he could not even sell his way out without taking a beating. This is the trap with all of these high-tech trucks. When the company behind it has not mastered the basics yet, you are not really an owner at all. You are a very well-paid test driver, and the fortune you handed over is what pays for their learning curve. And unlike a bad gas truck, when one of these breaks there is no independent shop on the corner that can touch it. You wait for the one authorized service center however far away it happens to be, however backed up they are, while your payment comes due right on schedule whether the truck moves or not. But as rough as Rivian is, it is nowhere near the bottom of this list. And do not think for a second this is only a big truck problem, because the smaller midsize pickups took their share of hits too. Consumer Reports rated the Jeep Gladiator below average and singled out the steering as the biggest culprit. On any vehicle, the steering is not exactly the place you want surprises. The GMC Canyon from the last few model years landed among the worst mid-size trucks on the entire market. And even the Toyota Tacoma, another name people trust almost on reflex, scored below average, just barely edging out the Nissan Frontier at the very bottom of the class. And the Tacoma is no stranger to trouble either, with recent recalls covering everything from seat belts to a part in the drivetrain that could let the truck roll away while it is parked. An outdoorsman up near Missoula, Montana, bought himself a Gladiator specifically to get deep into the backcountry, which is the one place on Earth you truly cannot afford a truck that feels vague and unpredictable through the wheel. When the trucks that are literally built and marketed for the rough stuff cannot get something as fundamental as the steering right, you start to see the real pattern here. This is not one bad model from one unlucky company having an off year. This is the entire industry cutting the exact same corners at the exact same time. And once you understand why every one of them is doing it, the truck at the very bottom of this list is going to make a whole lot more sense. So why is this happening right across the board? Why are trucks that cost more money than ever breaking down worse than ever? Because somewhere along the way, the manufacturer stopped selling you a truck and started selling you a smartphone that happens to have a bed on the back. They're cramming these things full of enormous touchscreens, complicated brand new turbocharged engines, and layer upon layer of electronics, all to chase fatter profit margins and to squeak past the fuel economy targets the government keeps tightening every single year. Every one of those giant screens is one more thing that can freeze. Every rushed, unproven engine is one more roll of the dice with your money. The old, simple, bulletproof truck that just ran for 300,000 miles without complaint is gone, and it is gone because it was not profitable enough to keep building. Look at it from their side for a second. A truck you keep and love for 15 years is a disaster for a company that would much rather sell you a complicated new one every 5, with pricey repairs and software subscriptions stacked on top the whole time. Reliability is not good for that business model. Breakdowns are. And here is the thing worth remembering. Consumer Reports did not invent a single word of this. All they did was survey the actual people who own these trucks and write down what keeps going wrong. They just said out loud what millions of frustrated owners have been muttering in their driveways for years. The regular buyer wanted a tool that works, plain and simple. What he got handed instead was a rolling science experiment with a $60,000 loan attached to it. And nowhere on the entire market does that experiment blow up more spectacularly than the truck sitting at the very rock bottom of this list. So here it is, the worst of all of them. The truck Consumer Reports called the single worst pickup they have ever tested in the entire history of them testing trucks. The 2026 Ram 1500, and its score was not a 30, or a 20, or even a 10. It scored a 5 out of 100. Now let me tell you what it actually takes to earn a score that low. Owners report that the keyless entry system quietly drains the battery overnight, so you walk out in the morning to a completely dead truck for no reason at all. The brand new twin-turbo 6-cylinder engine, the very one Ram bragged about the loudest, has been melting down its own emissions parts and leaking coolant into places coolant should never go, which can cook the engine from the inside out. In plain English, the single most important part of the truck, the thing you paid all that money for, can quietly destroy itself while you drive. And then, on top of all of that, there is a recall because the entire instrument panel can go dark while you are driving, which means you lose your speedometer, your fuel gauge, and every warning light all at the same moment. It is so bad that Ram is scrambling to bring back its old, proven V8 engine just to win people back, which tells you everything about how much faith they have in the new one. A small business owner in the Columbus, Ohio area financed one of these to run his deliveries, put his whole livelihood on it, and wound up with a truck that could strand him with a dead battery, blind him with a blank dashboard, or grenade its own engine without much warning. He is now fighting to force Ram to buy the thing back under the state lemon law. Picture the corner that puts a working man in. He needs the truck to make his money, but the truck is the very thing threatening to sink him. Every single morning he turns the key not knowing if it will start, whether the dash will work, or whether today is the day the engine finally lets go on the highway. A 5 out of 100 is not just a bad truck, it is a flashing red warning from the most trusted name in testing, aimed straight at anyone about to sign for one. And here is the part that should really land, because it is the same story every single time. Who actually pays for all of this? It is never the executives who signed off on the unfinished engines and the giant glitchy screens. It is the contractor near Knoxville who lost real jobs sitting around waiting on an engine. It is the well driller down in Lubbock babying a tailgate that opens itself on the freeway. It is the small business owner in Columbus staring at a 5 out of 100 truck he still owes thousands on. These are people who bought American, or bought the reliable name, and did every single thing a smart buyer is supposed to do. They read the reviews, they paid up for quality, and the industry handed them a science experiment anyway. Their reward for being careful was a truck in the shop and a payment book that does not care one bit. Now, I am not going to stand here and tell you every truck on the road is junk, because that simply is not true, and some of these companies will eventually sort these problems out. But right now, today, if you are about to put your name on the paperwork for one of these trucks, you owe it to yourself to look up that Consumer Reports score first. Because I promise you, the dealer is never going to be the one to show it to you. That single number is the one thing standing between you and a $60,000 mistake. Consumer Reports refreshes these truck reliability scores again in just a few months, and the smart money says the worst offenders on this list are not done falling yet. Subscribe so you get those new numbers straight from me before you ever set foot on a dealer lot.